Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Today we're looking at the Sage Intacct for professional services and project management. So today we have John Garzuzzi from Sage Intacct. John will be demoing the solution. I am Mo, and on the webinar today we have Faye Salmonson, managing partner here at Pur-Logic Solutions, and Angela, who will be keeping track of Q&A. Just a bit of housekeeping rules. We are recording this webinar and we'll share this with you after the webinar. Please ask your questions at the end or in the chat box as we go along, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. At the end of the demo, and if we can't, we will follow up with more details. Your time is valuable for us, and we will do our best to stick to the time allocated for this webinar today. Here are common challenges that we hear from many of our clients and organizations like you about professional services every day. That some of the common challenges is, of course, it's manual keying and delay in accurate information. Reporting is not in real time and it's cumbersome. Tracking projects, of course, and the cost for them is near impossible. Data sometimes lives in different islands of systems, and it's hard to put it together. Manual consolidation in Excel adds more days to closing, and it seems to be a never-ending process. Reconciliation is it becomes days. Billing is long and manual, error-prone, inaccurate time tracking, and current systems don't scale up as organizations scale up with their business. The good news is that these challenges aren't new to us, and the fact that we have a purpose-built solution to address every single one of them. But there are also new trends and challenges around digitization that are currently shaping the professional services industry as we go along. Sage Intacct, of course, is a leader in the cloud financial systems, and sometimes industries, or what we call segments in the industries, differ. So here's a picture of all the clients that fall into these segments, from financial services to professional services, software and SaaS, in retail. So you can see all of these businesses who have made use of Sage Intacct, and it is capability of doing this. So anywhere from financial industries, healthcare industries, non-for-profits, and professional services. With what the customers have in common was the fact that they were noticing that large numbers of the transactions volumes as they were growing. And you see a couple of clients here for Sage Intacct that showed that how their increase have grown by over time, and how Intacct has been able to help them. So we have Tandem HR. Their revenues grew by 150% while using Sage Intacct. They only added 1 FTE. Helron and Mod Squad, which seen a 50% faster invoice and close cycles with 2% increase in gross margin by using Sage Intacct. So the ROI on Sage Intacct gets paid off very quickly. Now let's talk about Sage Intacct and how it works in its ecosystem. So we have the accounting and ERP part of it, which is what the heart of it is. It also has the planning, budgeting, and analytics that's supporting. What does that do to you? It frees up more time for you to think about the strategy the company is doing, and automation. Through automation and AI, you can enable many functionalities like budgeting, planning, modeling, and providing you with instant reporting. Matter of fact, when you see the dashboards and how you can actually analyze your business from as simple as logging into Sage Intacct, and you can see that 7/24 anytime on a browser. The core accounting functionality is in the middle of it, which is the financial systems. We have project costing, project resource management, expense, and AI-powered by time entry. You have your project billing, because at some point when you accumulate your costing, you have to bill your customers. So it all works together in a circle, and it actually continuous in providing that flexibility and 360 view of your projects. Of course, given the automation today, you can enter your time and expenses through your mobile devices. We'll cover that pretty quickly, but if you would like to find out more about Sage Intelligent Time, please let us know, because it's in itself about a 30-minute demo with it, but John will just cover it quickly in his demo. Sage Intacct, what can we say about it? It is the only AICPA endorsed business solution. It's a leader in G2 as early as winter of 2022. It has large on industries analysts. It's a visionary cloud financial management. And then within Intacct itself as a company, when we sell software Sage Intacct, we sell it with something called Buy with Confidence, that everything we promise you will work. Sage Intacct and Pur-Logic solutions work for customer for life, and the service is second to none in customer support to come to it. So it's the right product, the right partner, and the right outcome delivers this. John will be covering these areas of the project, and I'm gonna transfer it now to John to do the demo.
Thanks, Mo. Let me get everything set up so that I can transfer my screen so that we can all see it. Give it a second. Now you should be looking at the Intacct solution itself. I'm going to get started. By the way, Mo showed you on that screen, that last screen. It goes through the various modules of projects. I'm showing you our full-blown, what we call project costing and billing module. So I'm going to walk through a project module that has all the bells and whistles, all the functionality that project managers and those who need to assess and analyze projects that they would need, and that we deliver. And just keep this in mind, everything that I'm showing you is a native solution. There are no add-on requirements. We don't need to go to third parties like some of the competitors that we have that need to bring in someone for job costing. Well, we're an accounting system. We know we know accounting, we know cost accounting, and we have that simply as part and parcel of what we deliver to you. And I'm going to walk through the whole breadth of what it is that we do within our project costing and billing module. First thing to know, if you haven't seen us before, dashboards. We do a great job on dashboards, and I'm going to spend probably the majority of my time just right off of this dashboards. We have role-based dashboards. So I'm on a project management dashboard, just giving you a little bit of understanding of different types of dashboards that you might want to create within your organization. So when it comes to project managers, I can restrict what project managers get to see. So I create one dashboard, I give it to all my PMs, and then based upon the type of where they are in my organizational structure, for instance, if they're in a certain location, then the system understands their permission sets and only shows them the information they're allowed to see. So a really nicely designed system when it comes to role-based management and permission sets that you need to hand out to people. We are real-time. We are SaaS-based, pure SaaS. We didn't migrate from any other platform. So we were started and we continue to be a SaaS-based solution. We are real-time and interactive. Interactive in the sense that I can use any of my filters, and some of these are dimensions because we use dimensionality within the system to structure how you want to look at information. I can go into as many dimensions, and here I'm just on a dimension for my locations or my entities. If I restrict it and say I only want to look at all of the details within this one location, all I have to do is click on apply. The entire screen gets repainted. In other words, the system understands underlying logic of what it is I'm interested in seeing. If I wanted to restrict this further, I have all of the capabilities of restricting what I want to look at as a project manager, my fixed fee projects, my active projects, my T&M projects, maybe all projects, only my Canadian projects. I can restrict this any which way I want. These are nothing but sort of groupings, and I get to create these groupings. The system doesn't give them to me. I tell the system how we run our company, right? And that's one of the, I think, key benefits in our system is that we give you all this functionality out of the box and in a self-service manner. In other words, I don't have to go to IT and ask them, hey, can you fix my dashboard? I'm only interested in my fixed, my fixed fee projects. All of that logic is there and available to you as an end user. And in a self-service manner, you go and you set up your dashboards any which way you want. Indeed, you set up almost anything in the system any which way you want, right? There's no restrictions on what you can do other than what your company wants to restrict you in doing. Let's talk about some of the components and the management on the dashboards themselves. I have absolutely everything that I would like to see as a project manager. Hours worked, right, on all of the projects. I drill into something. Everything that you see is a drillable component. The only thing that would impact me is if my company says, no, John, we don't want you to drill down. But I can go in and I can see hours worked are broken down into categories that are meaningful to you. So if you want to see billable and utilized hours, non-billable, non-utilized hours, and then hours that are non-billable but still utilized, these are just buckets. You can have 3, you can have 10, you can have 1. Completely configurable by you, and everything is drillable. So when I drill down, it means that I want to uncover more detail. Here I'm getting down to all of the billable hours within this time range, and I'm looking at timesheet data. I don't need to go anywhere else. I don't need to understand navigation structures or someone teach me how to navigate. It's there on my dashboard. Why? Because it's built in. It's built to serve your needs as a project manager in this example of a dashboard, and it understands where you want to go. So when you drill on any piece of information, it's just simply going to take you there. Labor costs, right? Costs are a huge portion of managing projects. I want to see a breakdown of my labor costs. How can I stratify or how can I organize my labor costs? In this example, I'm showing you how I'm doing between billable and non-billable, and even if I want to get into areas of overtime. Now, all of these are notions that are capable in our system and many, many more. It's just me going to show you that we understand accounting and we understand cost accounting, and we have all of the rest, we have the entire recipe to run the organization the way you would like to run it. I'm going to just show you another example. I want to go into expenses as I go across here. By the way, as I'm going across these tabs at the top, we call these performance cards, right? These are nothing more than your metrics or your KPIs. You get to determine what these KPIs stand for, all right? Some of them are indeed related to projects, but if there's not one here, you can go and create your own, because we have that functionality in the system where you can go and create your own measurements, your own metrics, and then have them available to you to analyze anytime you want. But if I'm drilling into my expenses, and if there's something that pops out when it comes to any of my expense lines, all I have to do, for instance, our subcontractors seem to be providing a lot of expenses. What are they related to? I simply can click on it, and then I can go, and if there's anything that pops out at me from a vendor bill perspective, I can click on it, right? I can bring it up, I can see the details of it, I can see, when was it that this bill to us, when was it due? Well, it's overdue. I haven't paid this in a really long time. The system is putting it in red automatically, letting me know you have an AP bill here that you haven't paid for a significantly long period of time. It's overdue based on what? It's overdue based on the terms that you have with your supplier. So I probably need to attend to this pretty quickly, right, with an outstanding amount of $72,000. Multi-currency capabilities. You run projects in any currency of your choice, and then if there's a functional currency you need it to be translated to when you run financials, we also have you covered there. Attachments. It's something simple, but note that we have the capability to attach any electronic document anywhere in our system. I'm showing you where it's attached to an AP bill because it makes sense here from this perspective, but you can have an attachment anywhere in our system, including journal entries. So a nice little utility to have, because now if you're having conversations with someone like a supplier, I don't have to say, something meaningless to them like, well, in my system, your vendor bill that, had a date of 12/01 and, in our system is vendor bill 24, that's meaningless to them, right? But now I can actually go to their invoice and say, hey, the invoice that you sent me on this date with invoice number, 1234, now we're having a conversation apples to apples. So something as simple as that is embedded in the system, and it gives me all of that functionality. Other things that I want to point out to you, we have an embedded chat tool, and it's free of charge. It comes with our core accounting. It's called Collaborate. You might think, well, what does that have to do with an ERP system? It really is handy because now we can communicate in line or in band. We don't have to communicate on a telephone. We don't have to communicate via email. Right on a transaction, I go in and, for instance, I mention Chelsea, who's my AP manager. I'm asking her, is this bill accurate? Because it seems a little high, $72,000. She replies to me. So the thread of our conversation is embedded on the transaction itself. So everything that we say, everything that we do, we now have a audit trail of all of that conversation. So we never have to guess a year from now if we're running a report, whatever happened with this, why was it outstanding for so long? We now have a thread of any communication that we had relating to this transaction. It's available as well on every transaction in the system. So down to a journal entry. If there's a journal entry and you want to communicate to someone in finance, put a comment in there, and now there's an audit trail with the thread of the entire communication that's now embedded with that transaction. So those are some of the things that we do to make people's lives easier who need to run and manage projects. Now, I could keep going across here and drill into any piece of any of these metrics or KPIs, including what's my revenue, what generates my revenue. I'm showing you this just to show you that the structure of this is completely up to you. It's not something that comes out of the box that says, okay, you have to have a revenue services line and reimbursed expense line and a subcontractor line and then an other category. No, these categories are categories that are meaningful to your organization, how you categorize, different levels of both revenue and expenses. And then it's just us saying, yeah, we're going to create those for you because that's how you look at your information. All the way through to something as simple as GP, right? Gross profit. Nobody had to build it for me. This is an out-of-the-box experience because the notion of gross profit is simple, right? If you understand accounting, then you should be able to understand what gross profit is. And so, take my revenues and take my costs and tell me what my gross is. So something as simple as this, out-of-the-box experience, all the drill down functionality that you have on your revenue and expense lines are available to you, right? Nobody needed to do this for me. This is something that Intacct delivers out of the box, and it's native to its capabilities and to its system. Now, let's go down and look at some details of projects. I can look at projects multiple different ways. I have, first of all, within this component, I call it a project snapshot report. In my project snapshot report, I have every single project under my management, right? I'm only looking at projects that I manage. And I can go in and I can look at it or categorize them any which way I want. I can look at my accounts receivable position and I can go down to any specific project and click on it, and it drills down and it opens up and it shows me this is my AR position, both from an invoicing perspective and a receivables perspective. What did I bill for, and was it paid? And I go down the line, as long as I see debits and credits that are matching each other, as a project manager, I'm really happy. When I don't see anything that I've received, well, that's when I might be unhappy and I need to go down and see, okay, what customer is this? It's cost less insurance. There's an invoice there. When was it generated? I can drill in. I can look at the AR invoice. I know it's way overdue. I have an issue here. Now, typically, you're not going to have this level of, hopefully, you're not going to have days outstanding that go into multiple years. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business if that happened to us a lot. But this is the level of detail on a project or projects that I'm managing that I have full control over, so that I can drill into anything that's meaningful against my projects, and I get to put them into categories. So similarly, I can show the build, everything that I build out on all my projects, all the revenue I've earned on all my projects. I'm not going to drill into all of them because I think you get the notion now that we can drill down. All of the number of hours we've worked. Why? Because again, that notion of labor costing and understanding things like hours worked, utilized hours, all I have to do is click on it, and the system takes me and it shows me all of my hours, in this case, non-billable, non-utilized hours. And I can go down the list, and if I have more, it'll take me into other areas to show me, hours non-billable utilized as another category. I can have any number of categories when it comes to labor that I want to manage, or I can just have one. Completely up to you. But the capability for you to have this is embedded in the system, and it's just something that you can make use of. I can see my labor cost positions. Of course I can, right? What are the costs of labor on all of my projects? Here, coming from timesheet records, are the costs of my labor. So I understand cost rate per employee. And if I wanted, I could simply drill down from here, and it will take me down to the details of that posting. So I can, if I want to, see how we're posting the debits and credits to the billable hours, the offset labor accounts that I've created, and any non-billable hours. How does it understand this? It understands this because it's coming from a timesheet. In this case, it's coming from Chuck's timesheet. I can drill all the way down to the source point of any piece of data or any piece of information. So now I'm opening up and I'm simply hyperlinking or using the hyperlinks that are available to me to go down to this level. It's the timesheet record that supports everything that we were just looking at. So this timesheet supports all of the data. I can see the timesheet information on a line by line basis. So I can begin to determine, oh, well, some of this was billable, 64 hours, but 16 hours on the same project was classified as non-billable or unbilled, right? It's still utilization, it still goes into utilization rates across all of my consultants, but it's not billable to the customer. Now, either that was determined by me, the project manager, or it was determined ahead of time. We agreed to, let's say, a maximum of hours that we bill a customer, or it's just something that we did for goodwill purposes, right? As project manager, which I've played in the past before, it happened a lot where we had to give some goodwill. So, I would give up a couple of hours as goodwill, maybe because we're nearing the top end of what we agreed to for billing terms. So all of that functionality is great to have when I'm a project manager because I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't have to run multiple reports. I can come to my dashboard, I log in the daytime, I can have conditional formatting. In other words, tell me if something is trending negatively when it comes to my project margins, and if it is, let me know about it, right? Put it in red instead of green. Something as simple as that is an out-of-box experience for us. My total costs, are we making these margins, as a little aside? Well, in a lot of systems, your costs are, let's say, your labor costs and maybe some expenses, but it's not really doing anything further than that, right? For true costing though, not only do we have to calculate direct costs, but what about the indirect costs? A lot of systems don't have the capacity to generate or to understand even indirect costs associated to running jobs or running projects. Because we have job costing, we fully understand cost accounting. So things like burden, right? Taxes that we have to pay, health insurance for our employees, fringe benefits. We understand that concept, or overhead, rent, utilities, all the things, the supplies, the office supplies, all those things that go to running our business. We can calculate on a project. And then, the G&A or general and administrative, we can calculate all of those cost centers like marketing and sales operations. They're a cost center, not a profit center, but we have to assign portions of what they do to the projects, and we have to do it so that all costs, our true costs, show up against my project. So I'm not including the true costs on this. So project manager, I may think, hey, my projects are going really well with margins in the 50s and the 40s, some of them in the 60s. But what I'm missing in this piece of information is the fact that I'm not bringing in all of those indirect costs. To bring in indirect costs, let me get away from this. In our system, we don't shy away from this. In the report, in the reporting area, I have the capability to come in, and on my own, we're going to walk through this really quickly because I think it's important to show how easy it is to go and set up projects without you needing to be a programmer. There's no compiling of any code that you're going to see here. I'm going to say, okay, I have my labor cost. Maybe beside my labor cost, I'm going to add a column. All right, and I'm just going to go in quickly and add that column. It's going to pick up the structure of the column prior to it just to make things easier for me. And I am now going to pick up some indirect costs. So I've created some indirect costing here. So I can come in here and I can say, hey, I want to use the indirect cost structure that I have created. So I have an indirect cost, sum them up, put them into this column for me. Notice that I'm not compiling anything. I'm going right into preview mode. In other words, show me what that now looks like. And now I have an indirect cost column as quickly as you saw me add it. Now, did it understand what goes into that? Yes, it did, and there's some structure behind it, but now look at what it's doing on a project by project basis. It goes in and it says, I'm gonna calculate burden. Well, how's it gonna calculate it? Well, I'm gonna accumulate all timesheets that have been approved, and then I'm gonna do a further calculation for you for job costing purposes. I'm going to subtotal your direct hours and calculate burden at a specific percentage, right? What I'm not showing you here is the percentage. 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever that calculation is, that's what's available to you. So I do that. Step two, after you've done the calculation of burden, you need to calculate something further. Go and sub the direct and the burden together and now calculate another amount for my overhead costs. So maybe it's an additional 15% or 20% that you typically need to calculate for your overhead to capture all of your overhead expenses. Go and calculate that for me. And then last but not least, GA on the sub of the direct and the burden and the overhead, now come and calculate my GA costs or my G&A costs. So another 5%, 6%, 10%, whatever it is that gets you closer. Now, what's the importance of all this? When we're doing this and we're adding all this up, now I'm going to use this figure together with my direct labor costs, and it's going to give me much more accurate. And now I'm sorry for my PMs, but it's going to give us much more accurate understanding. What are we truly making profit margin when we calculate total costs, right? And that's the beauty of having a system that understands cost accounting and more precisely job costing, because all of that and even more can be done on a project by project basis. And the system just has the functionality to do all that. I apologize, I closed too many windows and I'm gonna bring them all back. Let me quickly get here. Sorry about this. Doing things too quickly, but that's fine. Let me get back to where we were in 2 seconds. All right, here we come. I just needed to get all that in order. So that's what we do from a costing perspective, and I'm just going to take us back to the project manager dashboard. And all that functionality is again embedded in the system. So there's really nothing for me to have to go to someone to say, can you calculate or can you create this for me? I don't have to go to a consultant, don't have to go to my IT department. I can do it all on my own, right? Self-service, as long as I'm capturing those. And the system is set up to capture and calculate those. So it's not like I need to tell it what to do. It knows what to do after it's been set up during implementation. All I'm telling the system is, like I showed you in that report, go and put it on this report for me so I can see my true costs. All right, utilization, another important thing when we're running projects, right? What's our utilization factors? How many hours are my people being utilized? How many hours are they working? Maybe in this case per month, and then I want to see it maybe year to date. So I can break this down all in one report. And then because we have utilization rates that we want to attain as an organization, maybe it's 70%. Typically, in services, we try to attain 65 to 70% utilization factors. Well, don't make me guess, color code it for me. Tell me who is performing up to speed and who's not. So I can quickly understand which of my consultants are performing to the desired utilization factor or utilization goals. And that's what this report is doing for me. Trend analysis, I think, is another important one when it comes to projects. I am using all of the dimension capabilities in the system, and I'm going to break this up or break it open so you can see this. I am using all of the functionality of the system so that I can look at my revenue any which way I want. So this is me coming in and determining how I want to slice up my revenue. Notice that all of the amounts are the same, $961,000 and change, right? That's on purpose. It's supposed to be. If they didn't add up, then I would be concerned that the system doesn't understand what I'm asking. All I'm doing is I'm saying, show me my revenue by project, by my location. Show me my revenue by the lines of business that we sell. Show me it by the industries in which our customers are in. And that's just another capability of the system. Show me by the items on projects themselves. So on the project items, so services line items, pass-through line items, miscellaneous line items. These are the lines that we use on projects. Or indeed, show it to me by PM, by project manager. So I have all of this to show you what? To show you that we are a dimension-based system, and all of this was simply me telling the report, I want you to break it down by different dimensions for every subcategory. So go in, break it down by location. Go in, show it to me by service line, so on and so forth. The beauty, show it to me in one report. It's not one dimension per report. I can use multiple dimensions. One report saves me a whole bunch of time. And then I can color code it or do the conditional formatting to tell me things that are trending, in a positive manner, things that are trending in a negative manner, all done sort of self-sufficient, all done for me, and it all shows up to me on my dashboard if I ask it to show up on my dashboard. All right, some other things, budgets to actuals. We can budget down to a project level. All right, other systems don't. It's a fixed amount. I can have true, I'll say GL structure type of budgeting. Why? Because if I want to compare budgets by certain accounts or by certain GL accounts, I can come in and I can create budgets on a project by project basis down to whatever level of detail I want, both for revenue and expenses, out of the box. Why? Because we have that built into our system, again, because this is just something that we do. And we have been doing, just so you know, over 40 years. Sage as a company just celebrated its 41st anniversary. I want to look at information in this particular way. Only show me my fixed fee projects. That's simply done. And I can go in and I can see the hours, the revenue, and then the potential billings. And that's another sort of cost category that I think it's important as I open it up, just to let you know. Here on a, here is really one that project managers know whether or not they're managing the projects they're doing and they're quoting them out properly. And this one calculation, I think, really does a great job for those who need to manage projects. It's telling me as a project manager, these are the total number of hours on my project. Fantastic. This is the revenue to date on my project. And this potential billings is a calculation. It's in the cost accounting or job costing module, or the capability, right, that you get. It's saying if you were to have billed this project out on a T&M basis, time and materials basis, what would this revenue stream look like on a T&M basis as opposed to the fixed fee basis that it's based upon? It allows me to do a comparison to see whether or not we're quoting our fixed bid projects the way that we should be quoting them. Now, if this is a huge number, if that's of concern, then maybe we're quoting them too high and maybe we're pricing ourselves out of the market. If we're quoting it too low, then we're leaving money on the table. This is what this comparison between revenue and potential billings is meant to address. So you and the organization and all the project managers understand, are we pricing out these projects, these fixed bid projects, appropriately? And this one calculation really does it all for me. I was going to close that window again. Thank God I didn't. Sorry about that. So all of that functionality, and then there's more. I can get down to another actuals to budgets. I can get down to a very granular level. This project is showing you all my billable projects broken down by phase and task. So I can break out all the tasks on my project and I can see my budgets to actuals at a task level. So not just a project level. It's not just a dumb number or a static number. It's a meaningful budget number that gives me some very granular calculation or metric that I can do analysis against. So I can say my actuals on this project, the CRM implementation project, the analysis phase, actuals came in at this, I budgeted at that. Am I tracking to appropriately to my budget? This level of detail when it comes to BVA reporting, budget to actual reporting, is what we do and what we do extremely, extremely well. A couple of other things I want to mention to you. Of course, we're going to notify you when certain events are taking place. Things like what? Well, as a project manager, I want to know if there are timesheets waiting for my approval. I want to know if there are expenses waiting for my approval. Indeed, I didn't put it up here, but I want to know any AP bills that are waiting for my approval because they're hitting my project. All of those are capabilities using our workflow engine or our workflow knowledge or workflow functionality in the system, and it's easily added anywhere you need it. And my example to you is, if I am someone, and I'm not the PM on these projects right now, so I'm just going to show you what the PM on the project would see very quickly. I can log in, and the system on my dashboard would have these 3 transactions to say, hey, John, you need to approve some time transactions. If I wanted to open up any of them, I simply click on them and it would open up the line item level detail for me of this person's timesheet. So I'm looking at Nikki's timesheet. Why? Because she is working on my project and it's coming in on a, on her timesheet as she's working on at least one of my projects. The other one is a overhead project or an internal project. That one I don't really care about. So this is where the capability of the system begins to shine. The only thing I am interested in is approving the line item that pertains to me off of this timesheet. And the only capability the system will give me is to go in and see only the line that pertains to me so that I could have the ability to either approve or decline at the line item level. So imagine in your organization, people work on 5 different projects at a time, 5 different PMs. Now there's a really simple method to get this timesheet in the hands of all 5 PMs. Don't show them all 5 records, show them only the record that they have the ability to approve or decline, and then give them the window that says, okay, you are approving or declining, these many hours. Do you want to comment before you go ahead and either approve it or decline it? Declining it simply means we're going to send it back to the person who initiated this, and you might want to give them a comment of why you're declining the time against your project. Maybe you didn't think they worked that many hours. Whatever the reason, though, that capability exists. And similarly, I'll show you the same thing, but as it pertains to expenses. On the expense side of the house, I have expense reports because it comes part and parcel with the job costing and billing module. So you have the capability to have timesheets and expense reports on a coming in against projects, and I get to see the entire list of all of the line items of an expense report that pertains to my project, and I can go line by line, and same thing that I showed you or explained to you on a timesheet, I can approve or decline any line item. Again, the benefit here is I may approve 3 out of the 4. It doesn't prevent the billing events from occurring. So whatever billing cycle you're on, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever that sort of cadence is, you're now being held up by 1 PM not approving a line on an expense report or timesheet. The only thing that they're impacting is their own time, or their own expenses on their own projects. They're not slowing down everyone else's billing structure or billing cycle. So another important feature, and again, natively out of the box, we give this to you as part and parcel of what we do when it comes to project management and time and expense management. And like Mo explained to you, there's that capability to have the time on a on a smartphone. And if you're an organization that many people are on smartphones and they want to enter their time on a smartphone, so something as simple as that, then by all means, it's a capability. It's, again, it comes with the system. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, completely up to you. So all of that is me sort of introducing projects and project capabilities. I'm going to go into one more area of the system. And for this, I'm going to dive into a Canadian location or my Canadian entity, just to show you and finish off with some examples of project management, just to give you a sense of what it is on a project record. What does it look like in the system? Because I was showing you everything from the perspective of a dashboard. It would be nice just to see, what does a project actually look like? What does that project record look like? So I come in, we have list views for our projects. In other words, I can filter this just like I showed you on my dashboard. This is the exact same filter that I showed you on the dashboard. I can come in and I can say, hey, I'm only interested in all my fixed fee projects. So only show me the fixed fee projects. It's a smaller list here because I'm in the Canadian entity. But I can go to any project and I could begin to understand the project details, the project structure, if you will. So There's some, header information about the project, transaction rules, where my job costing that I showed you before. I want this project to have indirect costing done for it. And I also want this system to understand WIP accounting or WIP revenue. In other words, know how to place things in WIP and then relieve WIP as I'm billing this out on this project. So these notions, these accounting notions, are just part and parcel of what we do when it comes to job accounting. Additional information. There's some meaningful information. I'll get into it real quick, but how are we going to build this out? It's being up, we're going to build this up front, but maybe we're going to recognize this. So the notion of revenue recognition now comes to the table, and we do both of this extremely well. And I'm going to show you an example in another second. Are there any related documents to this project? Yeah, there's a sales order. In other words, there's a sales order associated to this project. So when we created this project, we also created a sales order to get it into a sort of in a sales process or a sales methodology. I don't have to guess how to get here. Well, can you take me there? Yes, of course, right? Open that up. Open up the details so I can see the structure. Well, here's the sales order details. What's on a sales order? The line items. Why is this important? Well, this is how we, in our system, give you the capability of separating out revenue recognition from billing. We have billing templates, and then we have revenue recognition templates. Independent, right? So that one does not impact the other. So in my example, and I'll walk through it, but I want to explain it to you. I'm saying bill $100,000, as you saw on this project over here. I'm billing it up front. Right? When I create this project, I want everything to be billed immediately. What's everything? The value of the contract or the value of the project, which is $100,000. So immediately out the door on the date, that we created this, or on the date of signing, the system understands how to generate that first AR event or that first invoice, which is upfront billing the entire $100,000. But then behind the scenes, it's saying we can't recognize everything. Just because we build it up front, we're not allowed to recognize it up front. We're going to recognize this on a milestone, task by task basis. And what does that mean? It means that we've got 3 tasks on this project. As we finish and complete each task, we can then and only then recognize the revenue on that task. So each task has a designated amount of revenue that we're going to get when we complete the work. So the system is just saying, I know how to first of all, defer this revenue, $100,000, and then recognize the revenue independent of how you're billing on this project. And let's go look at those 2 events, the billing event and then the revenue recognition event, just to finish off to show you some of that functionality. To do that, I'm just going to open up a couple of windows. So I'm just duplicating, oops, let me get rid of that, duplicating that and duplicating that. So on here, I have the capability to come in and I can do things like, we're going to look at, first of all, the invoicing event on that project. So for that, I'm going to show you how we're going to come in here and we're going to look at that fixed bid project. I'm going to pick up the project that we were on. Let me just get down to this list, the production shoot. And now I'm going to say preview it for me. I could say show me a pre-bill report. If you do redlining and you're an organization where your PMs come in and they redline the invoices before they get to finance, this is pre-built for them. It allows the PMs to come in, redline their bills, and then have those redlined invoices now go on in a workflow structure to the finance department. But let me just get right to the preview of that. So if I look at the preview of this, there's really only 3 lines on here. The 3 lines really are the $100,000 upfront billing. Now, just because I told the system on the project it's all upfront, I still have the capability at this point. For whatever reason, if you needed to reduce it by any amount, instead of I'm billing 100%, maybe I'm gonna only bill 50% of that, or maybe on this one I'm only gonna bill 22.5% of something. I have full functionality flexibility even at the invoicing stage, even though there's it was predetermined it was going to be upfront billing. You can make changes on the fly. You don't have to go back to the original point of entry, change the billing template just to do what I'm doing, which is going in and changing the amounts that I'm going to bill in this invoice cycle. Now, the second I do this, The great thing is that the system knows out of the $100,000, I'm only billing this. So guess what? Next billing cycle, it's going to pick up the remainder and it's going to again present it to me and say, hey, you have this much left to bill. Do you want to bill it? And I could go through the same process again and again and again. Now, some other things that I think I should highlight when it comes to invoicing. If you're doing T&M type of invoicing, it picks up all timesheets, all expenses, all AP expenses. If you're using a procurement, we have our purchasing, our procurement process is embedded in our core accounting. We call it purchasing. If it's coming through that procurement module, we'll pick up that. We'll even pick up any direct GL postings that someone in finance has done against this project, and then anything that's coming across a corporate credit card. So there's nothing that we're leaving to chance or nothing that's left outside of us scooping up. So for AR purposes, we know exactly what to do because everything is either going to be billable pass-through or non-billable. So it understands those notions. So it goes through the entire system to find and seek anything that hits a project if it's billable and present it on an invoice structure like I'm showing you here. For the revenue recognition, I'm just going to quickly jump around. For revenue recognition, the system simply says, okay, I know what to do when you tell me that, and on this project, just so you know, we've reached a milestone, because what I haven't shown you is on a task by task basis, I've told the system I'm going to use milestone revenue recognition. And if I go in and just show you one of them, what does it mean? Well, milestone recognition means this. Let me open up this task to show you. It means that I've tagged that task or that phase as a milestone, and then I need to either have timesheets drive the completion of this task, or I can have what's called observed. In other words, give authority to the project managers to override the timesheets. So let me, and when I was managing projects, I really appreciated this because sometimes I did want to go ahead. If I was 92% done, I wanted to go ahead and say, for all intents and purposes, we're pretty much done this task. So let me override what the system is going to calculate based upon timesheets, and let me override it and tell it that I am now completely done. Right? And that's the benefit of having something like this in a system. I can come in here and I can dictate when that revenue is going to be recognized. So if I wanted to make a change the day before this gets posted, all I would have to do is say, hey, I'm now going to recognize on the 14th of February, not the 15th of February. If I save that, it's now automatically picked up in the system. So now I've told it I've finished the first task. We can now recognize the outstanding revenue for task one, and we can now put it into our revenue bucket. So if I come back here and I refresh it, you're going to see 215 for $25,000 changed to 214 for $25,000. So I just simply have to refresh this, and it now comes in and it tells me, okay, you're going to recognize now a day earlier. This is automating and managing your revenue independent of how I showed you how we do billing. And that is also part and parcel of what we do to make everyone's life a little bit easier when it comes to managing projects in the system. All right, I am going to stop and say I'm probably going to end off here. Mo, maybe if there's any questions or anybody wants to ask me anything, we can sort of stop and see if there's a Q&A that wants to occur, or did you want me to show any other additional pieces of functionality as it pertains to costing and billing on our projects?
Angela, thank you, John. Angela, is there any questions that have come through?
So far, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay. So I think, John, you did too much of a good job that people don't have any questions. This is a great demo. I think if you are a project manager or you're in charge of a professional services firm, I think what John showed you covers the 360 of it. The projects, the costs, the billing, the revenue recognition, the ability to approve timesheets, to approve expense reports, and be able to manage and see your projects from a dashboard and from individual projects and going in to do it. So I think there's nothing left for chance. And one of the biggest concerns of most professional services is leakage. even though it's not a great word, but we're incurring expenses, but we're not billing for it, or we're not even aware of it and recognizing it. So something like Sage Intacct actually will safeguard you from all these. And there is many other things within Sage Intacct that we didn't even touch that will give you that capability. So if you see one of our earliest webinars on our website, you will see the basic functionality of AR, AP, and GL and dimensions explained really properly as John covered them by assigning dimensions in the projects. And the project dimension actually comes out of the box, and you can assign that to your activities. Having said that, if you have any specific questions when you watch this demo, please contact us, because we can narrow it down and answer your specific question by specific professional service industry, whether you're a production company, whether you're a professional services company from an accounting or law firm, we can handle all of that. So John, thank you very much. That was a very thorough and excellent demo. I could not have done that myself. Anyways,
No problem.
yeah, and you will be receiving a recording of this demo. You can watch it in your own leisure. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact myself. I can be reached at mo@purlogicsolutions.com or go to our website and contact us. Angela, any closing parting words?
You summed it all up.
Okay. I know that we will be gathering the attendees information and picking a winner for that gift card, and we will contact you. John, once again, thank you very much. Angela, thank you very much. And that was a great demo.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.